We are live. Oh, really? The dog's on the couch with his ball again. Want me to throw it?
What?
Drop it. Let me have it. Crash, bang. Good morning, Ava. Can you hear me okay?
You good?
What's the matter, sis? Thank you, Ava.
My husband's being annoying.
Oh, that's normal.
See, that's
Anyway, it is Saturday and AA day. So today I'm going to remind everyone to be kind, no judgment, no bullying. And if you're here and you don't want to be in chat, I completely understand because the chat does upload, um, as far as I know. So I have to still figure that out. So, but yeah, it's AA day. I'm glad to have everyone here and have everyone that watches and can learn ways to stay sober. And it's actually useful in everything. So, like, if it's helping you get through a bad time, that's great. Um, but the reason I do the AA is to help everyone who may be an alcoholic or is a recovering alcoholic or thinking about starting AA. When I started, I was nervous. I didn't talk. And now for AA being in my life for 8 years, I I can say that it works, especially for me and my alcoholism, which I'm still an alcoholic. I'm just not drinking. And doing the AA and doing the steps and everything just gives you the tools that you need to redirect your thinking of wanting to drink. And so there's a lot of tips and tricks in the books. You can learn from the steps, which is in your 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. And then right now we are on the big book. We just finished the 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book. So we are actually still on Build Story, which I put in the description of what book we're reading and the story because of the big book. The big book is a lot of stories, and a lot of them we can all relate to. So, but right now we're on Build Story and on page 7.
Are we doing uh, 12 steps first?
yes, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna do the Serenity Prayer and do the go through the steps, and then we will get back into Bill's story on page 7. So, if you're new here, welcome. If you don't have a book, don't worry. I do. I can read them, and my sister here helps me read them. She is almost 8 years sober. I'm very proud of her, and very happy that I got her to start this journey with me. A little after me, but we're doing this together, and it makes it all the more special to have my sister uh, doing life sober with me. It means a lot. So
Sorry if my fans are bothering people. It's
it's
really
okay.
warm today.
Yeah. Um. Hence, thank God. It is warm. So I'm gonna say the Serenity Prayer. If you know it, you can say it with us. If you don't, you can learn it here. Um. So yeah, let's get into it. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, I can't see to read with my glasses on. I'm farsighted. So, in your 12 steps and 12 traditions in the front, you will find the steps and traditions, and that's where I read the steps from. Okay, I'm wrong. I think 12 traditions are they are right here. Okay. They are in the front. So, here we go. Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10. Continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So we are in the big book. We call it the big book because it's the biggest book that we get. It's just it says on the front Alcoholics Anonymous, and it is the 4th edition. Hello. So we are going to start on my brother-in-law on page 7. This one is really, really, really long.
What?
Okay. My brother-in-law is a physician, and so through his kindness and that of my mother, I was placed in a naturally known hospital for the mental and physical rehabilitation of alcoholics. Under the so-called belladonna treatment, my brain cleared. Hypno- Hydrotherapy and mild exercise helped much. Best of all, I met a kind doctor who explained that though certainly selfish and foolish, I had been seriously ill, bodily and mentally. It revived me somewhat to learn that in alcoholics the will is amazingly weakened when it comes to combating liquor, though it often remains strong in other respects. My incredible behavior in the face of a desperate desire to stop was explained. Understanding myself now, I fared forth in high hope. For 3 or 4 months the goose hung high. I went to town regularly and even made a little money. Surely this was the answer, self-knowledge. But it was not, for the frightful day came when I drank once more. The curve of my declining moral and bodily health fell off like a ski jump. After a time I returned to the hospital. This was the finish. The curtain, it seemed to me. My weary and despairing wife was informed that it would all end with heart failure during delirium tremens, or I would develop a wet brain, perhaps within a year. She would soon have to give me over to the undertaker or the asylum. They did not need to tell me. I knew and almost welcomed the idea. It was devastating. It was a devastating blow to my pride. I, who had thought so well of myself and my abilities, of my capacity to surmount obstacles, was concerned at last, or cornered at last. Now I was to plunge into the dark, joining that endless procession of thought who had gone on before. I thought of my poor wife. There had been much happiness after all. All okay. What would I not give to make amends? But that was over now. No words can tell of the loneliness and despair I found in the bitter morass of self-pity. Quicksand stretched around me in all directions. I had met my match. I had been overwhelmed. Alcohol was my master.
Trembling, I stepped from the hospital, a broken man. Fear sobered me for a bit. Then came the insidious insanity of that first drink, and on our Armistice Day, 1934, I was off again. Everyone became resigned to the certainty that I would have to be shut up somewhere or would stumble along to a miserable end. How dark it is before the dawn. In reality, that was the beginning of my last
The
debauch.
box.
I was soon to be capulated into what I like to call the fourth dimension of existence. I was I was to know happiness, peace, and usefulness in a way of life that is incredibly more wonderful as time passes. Near the end of the bleak November, I sat drinking in my kitchen. With a certain satisfaction, I reflected there was enough gin concealed about the house to carry me through. That night and the next day, my wife was at work. I wondered whether I dared hide a full bottle of gin near the head of our bed. I would need it for before daylight. My musing was interrupted by the telephone. The cheery voice of an old school friend asked if he might come over. He was sober. It was years since I could remember his coming to New York in that condition. I was amused.
Yeah.
Rumor rumor had it that he had been committed for alcoholic insanity. I wondered how he had escaped. Of course, he would have dinner and then I could drink openly with him, unmindful of his welfare. I thought only of recapturing the spirit of other days. There was that time we had chartered chartered an airplane to complete a jag. His coming was an oasis in the dreary desert of futility. The very thing, an oasis. Drinkers are like that. The door opened. He stood there, fresh skinned and glowing. There was something about his eyes. He was inexplicably different. What had happened? I pushed a drink across the table. He refused it, disappointed but curious. I wondered what had got into the fellow. He wasn't himself. Come, what's all this about? I queried. He looked straight at me, simply but smilingly. He said, I've got religion.
I was aghast. So that was it. That last summer on alcoholic crackpot. Now I suspected a little cracked about religion. He had that starry eyed look. Yes, the old boy was on fire, all right. But bless his heart, let him rant. Besides, my gin would last longer than his preaching. But he did no ranting. In a matter of fact way, he told how two men had appeared in court, persuading the judge to suspend his commitment. They had told a simple religious idea and a practical program of action. That was 2 months ago, and the result was self evident. It worked. He had come to pass his experiences along to me, if I cared to have it. I was shocked, but interested. Certainly, I was interested. I had to be, for I was hopeless. He talked for hours. Childhood memories rose before me. I could almost hear the sounds of the preacher's voice as I sat. On still Sundays, way over there on the hillside, there was that proffered temperance pledge I never signed. My grandfather's good-natured contempt of some church folk, of their doings, his insistence that the sphere really had their music, but his denial of the preacher's right to tell him how he must listen, his fearfulness as he spoke of these things just before he died. These recollections welled up from the past. They made me swallow hard. That wartime day in old Winchester Cathedral came back again. I had always believed in a power greater than myself, had often pondered these things. I was not atheist. Few people really are, for that means blind faith. in the strange proposition that this universe originated in a sphere and aimlessly rushed nowhere. My intellectual heroes, the chemists, the astronomers, even the evolutionists suggested vast law and forces at work. Despite contrary indications, I had little doubt that a mighty purpose or rhythm underlay all. How could there be so much of precise and immutable law and no intelligence? I simply had to believe in a spirit of the universe who knew neither time nor limitations, but that was as far as I had gone. With ministers and the world's religions, I parted right there. When they talked of God personal to me, who was love, superhuman strength and direction, I became irritated and my mind snapped shut against such a fury. To Christ I conceded the certainty of a great man not too closely followed by those who claimed him, his moral teaching most excellent for himself. I had adopted those parts which seemed convenient and not too difficult. The rest I disregarded. The
The
wars
wars which had been fought, the burnings and chicanery that religions dispute had
facilitated.
facilitated made me sick. I honestly doubted whether, on balance, the religions of mankind had done any good. Judging from what I had seen in Europe and since, the power of God in human affairs was negotiable. The brotherhood of man a grim jest. If there was a devil, he seemed the boss universal, and he certainly had me. But my friend sat before me, and he made the point blank declaration that God had done for him what he could not do for himself. His human will had failed. Doctors had pronounced him incurable. Society was about to lock him up. Like myself, he had admitted complete defeat. Then he had, in effect, been raised from the dead, suddenly taken from the scrap heap to a level of life better than the best he had ever known. Had this power originated in him? Obviously, it had not. There had been no more power in him than there was in me at that minute, and this was none at all. That floored me. It began to look as though religion or religious people were right after all. Here was something at work in a human heart which had done the impossible. My ideas about miracles were drastically revised right then. Never mind the musty past. Here sat a miracle directly across the kitchen table. He shouted great tidings. I saw that my friend was much more than inwardly re- reorganized. He was on a different footing. His roots grasped a new soil. Despite the living example of my friend, there remained in me the vestiges of my old prejudice. The word God still aroused a certain antipathy when the thought was expressed that there might be a God. Personal to me, this feeling was intensified. I didn't like the idea. I could go for such conceptions as creative intelligence, universal mind, or spirit of nature, but I resisted the thought of a star of the heavens, however loving his sway might be. I have since talked with scores of men who felt the same way.
You want to stop there? Or you want to keep
Yeah,
going? Stop there. Okay, we
yeah.
only got 2 pages left, so.
Uh,
But I said we only got 2 pages left, but it's all right. We can finish it up on Tuesday. Now y'all see me crying. That is because this is so very true. Very, very true. Um, I was the same way. I was not brought up to be religious. Um, but when I got into my teenagers, I started getting into it a little bit. And then I got into hanging out with some people that, bought me alcohol when I was a teenager. I mean, I don't think there's any kids that haven't had that. So, but there probably is. But anyway, so that part um was me when I went to AA and when I started going to AA. I mean, um, it was so me uh when I got there. I did not um I was beat up and broken and didn't want to believe in anything. I didn't think that, I would last being sober. But when I got to AA and I figured it out and I actually started doing my steps, I saw a different light. Um, because they didn't say religious things. I mean, we pray, but we're not praying for any specific thing other than help us acknowledge that things are not always great. We can't always control every situation and stuff like that. And so when I figured out that I did not have to claim any religion, but I could claim a higher power, it was a whole different thing. And I was like, okay, so I can come to this group and they're not going to preach to me about a God, but they're going to teach me that there is a higher power. And that's what I tell my sponsees, because not all of my sponsees, I have three, I think, but not all of them are religious. So when one of them asked me or told me that they don't believe in God or they don't believe in this, and I said, no, it's just a power greater than yourself. It's anything. It could be a stick, it could be a rock, it could be your pet, it could be a stranger. But there's something that in your conscience can, like, say how you're feeling to that higher power. And it's not any particular thing. And that's the best thing, because I didn't want to be preached at. I didn't want to be told what to do. And, but they were willing to help me work through my steps. They didn't expect me to go it alone. They helped me along the way, and they still help me along the way. And I just learned to use my steps in every day. And when you get to that point where you're like, okay, I get it. You can keep going to your meetings because it's never the same. You never just say the same things. And
Some
people,
people do.
yeah, some people do, but it's something that they're still dealing with. But a lot of what people are saying in the meetings, you can relate to it. A lot. I know I did.
I
Um,
did.
I for sure, I don't think I said my name in the first meeting. I think my husband did. But yeah, and then I just learned, everybody else is saying that we're recovering alcoholics, right? We're in AA. And I went on my own free will. I was not court ordered or anything like that. So I just went because my friend said, hey, there's an AA meeting. You want to go? I'll meet you there. So we went, and I found out he hadn't gone for a very long time. So, but yeah, it's amazing. And being sober for 8 years and 5 months, I can relate to these stories in the big book so well. And yeah, and everybody can relate to them in some way. It wasn't easy getting to where we are now, though. So we've done a lot of work, and we continue to do a lot of work every single day. But you can make it. You can always make it.
Some days are harder than others.
Yep.
Some days are really easy.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
just got to work your steps and one day at a time. Every day I wake up sober is a great day.
Yep. It's completely worth it. I can promise that. And I got sober a year before I was sober for a year, and I was like, "Oh, what the heck? I'm gonna go ahead and drink." That was a bad move because I went all the way back to where I already come from, and I'm telling you, staying sober is so much better. You don't forget who you called. You're not calling and blaming somebody else for all your problems, or you're not doing that, and it's great.
Not waking up with a hangover.
Right. Not trying to chase the hangover away. That's for sure. So that's a great part. Um, every day sober life is completely worth it.
And I always wake up knowing where I am.
Yep. Me too. Me too. And I know that there's people here that don't do in the chat. So if you're here and you're just listening, please hit the like button. It helps to get my word out about sobriety. Um, I'm not sponsored by AA. I'm not affiliated with AA. I'm just sharing the knowledge that I have and the steps that can help you out of it. And that's what I want to do is be helpful and share a free gift that I received. Share it for free to everyone because every day sobriety is the best day. It's
Yep.
the best day. So, but I hope everyone is having a wonderful weekend. It is warm here in Oregon. Um,
Finally,
it's sunny. It's supposed to rain next week, so we will see how long this warm weather stays. um, but yeah, every time I read these books, something is different. It always impacts you different.
yep.
But if you don't have a book and you would like to get a book, I'm not sponsored by Amazon. I'm not affiliated with Amazon, and I don't work for them anymore. But you can get your books from Amazon, or you can locate a local AA meeting. They're everywhere. They're even on cruise ships. So if you're on a cruise, there's a meeting. Just ask. I'm sure they'll tell you where you need to go.
And I'm almost positive you could find the books at the library.
Yes, you can find books at the library. I got my books for free. My sponsor and
You
I
Amazon
love
books.
to give them to other people who may need them. And so that's what I have done is I've given books away, and my sponsor gets me different ones. Like this one I have from St. Mary's in Idaho. I've had it since 2018. So, yeah. But I hope everyone has a great day. And I'm going to close this out with Serenity Prayer. And don't forget to tell your loved ones you love them. And you got this. We've got this. We can stay sober. We can get sober and stay sober. And thank you for coming and being part and watching. Share it out if you'd like. If you don't want to, that's fine. I completely understand not everybody is willing to be public about their issue of being an alcoholic or recovering alcoholic. So I completely understand, but just smash the like button if you can. Um, and comment if you're not worried about it. So, but we're going to say the Serenity Prayer and say, we love you. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I love you guys. Have a great weekend.